Howdy,
How's your
howdy.
stream gone so far?
Am I audible? Hello?
You
You are
sound great.
audible.
All right, just making sure. How y'all doing?
Not too
Doing
shabby.
great.
I am doing well. A good portion of stream has been sent screaming about AI art, which is kind of how I like it. Would you mind, for the simple-minded in chat, reminding everyone who you are?
Yeah. I'm Cam. I am the engagement director for Progressive Victory. Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Devro. I'm the community director here at PV. Last we spoke, yourself in chat, I was in Georgia on the ground canvassing. So it's nice to be here and nice to get to chat with you and hear some questions from our members.
In Georgia. What's happening over there in Georgia?
Well, it was Warnock.
Oh my goodness, that's right. It has been that long since we've last
Yeah.
talked to each other, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm a little more camera shy, so I don't come on as often. But yeah, here I am.
Well, that's okay. We'll rectify that with some fine cueing and A-ing today.
Oh, and also, I use she, her pronouns. Cam uses they, them pronouns.
I knew that.
Excellent.
And now chat knows that.
Yeah.
We got
I'm
a bunch
sure
of people
screaming. Yeah, I'm sure Chow is screaming for pronouns because they always are.
Oh, sure. I got a bunch of people waiting, huh?
Yes, we have the lovely community members here, and we are going to be prioritizing people who helped us out in the midterms, who secured all those progressive victories. So there are perks to volunteering. All you chatters should learn from that. Emma's going to start us off here with the first question from Diana.
Yeah, so Diana asks, my trans fiance and I have kept our passports up to date just in case. Are you following your own advice? Are you ready to flee the country should things just continue to get worse?
Yeah, well, passports stay renewed for 10 years, so I won't need to take any active effort to follow my own advice for a while. I'm set. But yes, as time goes on, I'll continue that. Things are looking kind of rough right now. I do think there are some rays of hope on the horizon, sincerely. I do think there's like a reasonable possibility that we get increasingly good news with time in terms of the GOP overstepping and sort of failing to capture the interest they need. And maybe the alert level, the DEFCON level, will come down with time. Not yet, though.
Sometimes it's darkest before the light.
For sure. There is definitely still time. Our next question comes to us from Ronald, who is going to ask that question himself.
Ronald.
Hey, can you hear me?
What's up?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Hey, so my question is, could you elaborate on what it means to be a progressive? Does progressivism mean no iPhone? Does believing in progressive politics obligate someone to act in a way that results in outcomes that lead to progressivism? To what extent can we expect someone to act for progressive change? I think I have a good general idea on this already, and I think we agree by majority. However, I would like to hear you elaborate to your audience on what this is all for, and can you also apologize for not giving out cheese wheels?
Yeah, we're banking the cheese wheel bank for sure. The interest is accumulating. I think at the end of the day, I think progressivism fundamentally is about freedom, and it's about non-essentialism. I think that at its root, progressivism is about understanding that fundamentally we're all basically the same. There are some differences between us, but for the most part, we want to live our lives with the right to handle ourselves however we like, as long as we're not hurting other people. And in order to do that, you need to prioritize freedom. You need to prioritize the ability to see past people's surface values and not make intuitive ascriptions to their character based on what you see. And this is why, I don't like the political chart, the compass, right, with the auth left, auth right, lib left, live right. It's because I don't really think auth left is a thing, and I think that historically that has been the case. Countries or societies which are highly authoritarian are overwhelmingly highly reactionary as well. I don't know how you could ideologically parse an obsession with state control or with an adherence to social norms and tradition, while also allowing for a free range of personal expression when it comes to gender identity or whatever else. True.
Awesome.
They're
Thank you
dead,
so much.
All right, does that
which
answer your
means they're
question?
free in a progressive
Wow.
sense.
True.
Oh,
Or
hello.
I
Welcome
was
back.
also going. Yeah, I was muted so that I could listen. So I was more like trying to ask this question in a way of like, for people of your audience, like how can they get involved, and like to what extent is someone obligated to get involved? Like for what I believe, if you have the time, it's good if you get involved, but at the end of the day, like it'll cause like unnecessary infighting to be like, oh, you have to do X amount, you have to like give away all your money to charity. But at the same time, you know, like if you do have the ability, why not like try and help out, you know?
Yeah, I think it's good to try your best. I think that's a ubiquitous, belief. I think you could apply that pretty much everywhere in life. Obligations are a bad way to get people to engage in good behavior. Usually, people will do things that align with strong values or convenience. And as callous as it may be to say, right? Like we pass by homeless people walking down the street all the time, don't we? We often have cash in our pocket. If we gave cash to every homeless person, maybe we'd be broke. But have we done it to everyone we've ever seen? Probably not. But it's good to encourage. It's good to say, we can't always be perfect and we can't always do what might theoretically be our best, but it's good to make an effort. And the best way to maximize good engagement under those circumstances, often, I think, is to sell them on the appeal, on the convenience. That's why when I talk about canvassing so much, I talk about, accurately, by the way, I don't need to lie, I talk about how socially engaging it can be, how much fun it can be. I mean, literally right before I started talking right here, here's a donation that I got. Velabel, thanks the 5 gifted tier 1 subs. First time canvassing with folks and it felt great. That's just why I just saw that right before I got in. I get this all the time. I'll reread that dono later and thank you properly, of course. I get this all the time. People have fun. There was a phone banking dono that came in that I read right before I got on here. People enjoy doing this stuff because they feel useful, they feel engaged, they get social opportunities, they get down the line, maybe even career opportunities. This stuff can branch out quite a lot depending on how things play out. It is deeply meaningful.
All
Yeah.
right, thank you for your question, Ronald.
To end off, I just want to say too, this past like midterm was the first time I ever got involved in anything. And so I went canvassing for the first time, started phone making for the first time. It's been really good, like a good use of my energy. And
Oh yeah.
also, I've been able to work the polls. And so like it's another good opportunity for anybody listening is like see your local area, see if they have openings for like poll workers, because like especially in the city I'm in, there are a lot of people there. And like one, you can like have you can like work that the day of the election and like make money with that. And what I do is like some of the money I make, I just send it PV's way. So
Yeah, we love to hear that.
It's very good of you.
Yeah, meet new friends, feel like you're making a difference, and hey, maybe you find a position like Ronald did.
All right, up next we have Apricot with a question.
I used to have an
Hello?
I used to have an apricot tree um in my on my lawn. And
Well,
my
that sounds fun.
Yeah, my mother would bake apricot pies in the spring when the apricots were
Nice.
ripe.
I'm kind of nervous because I've been watching you since 2019. It's good to have this interaction.
Yeah.
My question was, what's the best way you can make sure that people with a lot of money don't have like outsized influence on politics, or like what's the best way to keep money out of politics?
Wow, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, the long-term goal would be, total decommodification or worker cooperative based society, but that's obviously kind of like answering the question with, well, what if we just fixed everything? I think there are a couple of like obvious things we could do right off the bat, like Citizens United stuff. We need total transparency when it comes to where money is being found in politics, and also limits to it. The more we put a stranglehold on where money is allowed to come from in many of these political races, I think the better and healthier our democracy will be. The point of a democracy, after all, is that, especially when it comes to voting in a candidate, everyone gets an equal say. If you have a system where a very small group of people have an enormously disproportionate effect, it's kind of difficult to call that a democracy. At the very least, it's closer to an oligarchy. And right now, it is, of course, the capitalists, the people with the money, who have a ridiculous amount of influence, because their money sustains these political parties, and that means the political parties have to cater to them. Transparency is step one. Limitations on what can be donated is step two. I also think that better funding the IRS and other agencies that sort of regulate and manage the flow of money would be pretty good, because a lot of crimes are being committed right now. Our agencies either just don't have the money, the manpower, or the, let's say, initiative to go after the people that are committing these crimes. So at the moment, unfortunately, a lot of it is like constitutional regulatory stuff. But the further along we go, I think the more amenable people will be to systemic solutions to these issues.
Nice.
I
All right,
agree.
Thank you for coming on, Apricot. We really appreciate you.
All right. See you later.
Be well.
Yeah, next question comes to us from Madeline. What was your worst debate, and why?
I think the worst debate I ever had was the first one with Sargon, because I got too heated. Righteous anger is a really difficult emotion to balance in, especially I think in online discussions. People are often willing to be more charitable towards anger as a kind of general state of being, when it comes to some types of in real life debates or some kinds of political advocacy, because it might go along with your aesthetic, right? Like, people love Bernie coming across as kind of like a cranky old guy, whereas being cranky, like if I was just grumpy in an interview or a debate, it would come across, I think, quite negatively. But in that initial conversation, I got up in my head, there were like so many things that he'd done that were wrong or stupid, and I thought I was there to bring him to account for all of them. Classic mistake. And chat baits you into this too, because chat's like, oh, make sure to bring up this or that. But like, it's Sargon.
Yeah.
Man had said 1,000 dumb things. You can't get to all of them. And in fact, if you go there and you're like, jonesing to go after all these things, all you're going to do is come across as kind of like an unhinged lunatic with a chip on his shoulder to his audience. And that's a bad way to do a debate. You have to come across as kind of disengaged, to the extent that like, oh, you're not here to be angry at him. You just have some questions. And then you try to pull him apart,
Just asking questions.
Right.
All right. Up next, we have Rusty to ask their question. Come on up, Rusty.
Rusty.
Clicking on
Howdy.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Rusty. I go by she, they. I just recently came out, actually, and watching her. I got into you in like 2019, and actually, like, over the years, it kind of helped me learn to come out and be more accepting of myself. I just, like, I don't know. It was weird. Anyway,
very
what was
happy to
I
hear that.
talking about? The other thing is, like, the other thing I always appreciate about watching videos is your media takes. I'm one of the few friends I know that watch your videos actually agrees with a lot of your video takes. It's really nice.
Vindication,
And
finally.
has been helping me out with a lot of my own stories, how I write them. And I was thinking about how much, like, there's a lot of stuff that gets annoying with the online left and how it ends up being perceived with people outside. And I have this worry where I want to write a story that would critique the online left, but not make the movement itself look undesirable, and without it coming across as neoliberal, like a Marvel movie or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you think about a good way to approach that?
So we're talking purely like narrative creation here, right?
Yeah, basically.
Well, I think, do you know about, so I think this was after the publication of the that one pamphlet. What's it with the specter of communism? Communist Manifesto. Marx and Engels were approached by a bunch of like young, enterprising writers who wanted their backing, their support, or just their like sign off on stories that were modeled after their political theories. So basically a writer would, here's a story of a bunch of heroic tenants coming together and beating back the evil landlord, or, workers and their capital owners. But these got shot down time and time again. And the reason for that was because if you read like Das Kapital, for example, there's actually a surprising degree of nuance. Karl was no fool and not an essentialist himself. He understood that this game we play, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, it's not like a good versus bad thing. That's the mistake Jordan Peterson made when debating Slavoj Žižek. It's a dance in which both participants are forced into their roles. And sure, the proletariat have it worse, but it's not like a perfectly conscious, active, malicious process from one to the other. There's interplay there. So he thought those books were too they were too sensationalist. They were too Marvel movie. That's what they were. That was the criticism, essentially. They were too Marvel. So what I would say is, much like in the way Disco Elysium was successful in doing, the real way to get a person to resonate with a story like that, even with very strong political themes, which Disco Elysium definitely has, is that
sandwich.
I
yeah,
haven't beaten that game yet.
yeah,
I need to get more into it.
it's a good game.
Yeah, I know.
Engage with a full willingness to critique that which you love, but do so thoughtfully, and do it in a way that makes people sympathetic with those internal criticisms. Another good example would be Parasite, by the way. The film Parasite, if you just look at what's happening in it, is a very nice rich family being taken over, essentially, by a very mean poor family. But everyone walks away from that movie thinking, wow, I sure hate rich people. And I think that's it's indicative of very good writing, because a purely, like, if you just read like a 2-paragraph summary of the script, it would be like, wow, poor people sure are greedy parasites, huh? And then you watch the movie and you're like, wow, nice wealthy family sure are greedy parasites, huh? And that, I think, that is cinema. That is kino.
Speaking of like criticizing leftists, I actually like tried to get one of my buddies into it, and they thought it was the whole point of the movie was to criticize poor people without like, because they missed the whole point and the like the whole flooding scene. It's interesting.
I'll admit that Parasite relies heavily on good media skills from the viewer, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really good film. It's probably one of my favorites. Recently, I think Shin Ultraman has became one of my favorites, along with Shin Godzilla, which you should definitely check out because it's made by the same. Yeah,
it's on
it's
my
made by the
list.
same guy who made Evangelion, so it's gonna probably be good. Anyway, sorry. Thank you so much. It was really cool hearing your thoughts.
Of course. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Awesome. Up next, we have, you might remember him, Adam.
Adam.
Hey, can you hear me?
Adam from YMS. Hello. Nice movie reviews you did
Wrong
recently.
one. Not a horse.
Had a great time drinking with you the exact day the Ukraine war started. That was great.
One of my favorite memories, top 10. So
how you doing?
Pretty good. So as you've heard, I'm a Wisconsinite. I spoke to you recently about the tough situation we're in, so I have to ask a pretty serious question here.
Right.
Where are cheese wheels, and what are your top 3 favorite cheeses?
Okay, first of all, I'll answer the second question first. First of all, probably sharp cheddar for general use, then blue cheese. Don't think you can get that in a real wheel. I mean, you can get it shaped into a wheel, but it's. And as for third, I know it's kind of like lowbrow, but I think pepper jack is like a really good cheese that people sleep on.
Yeah.
People don't talk about pepper jack enough. It's true.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. As for the where they are. Okay. No, you're right. The cheese wheel interest is accruing, and I am a man of my word. Cheese wheels are expensive, but you know what else is priceless? The hard work of the canvassers. I think what I need to do is plan it out properly. I need to get a feel for it. Where are people going to be? When are they going to be there? And can I have the cheese wheel airdropped? These are important questions that I've asked myself, and I think there may be satisfying answers on the horizon.
Okay, because I just need to say, my wife and another Wisconsinite, we went down to Georgia and we assembled a cheese wheel in your honor, but it
I
wasn't
saw!
the same. It
Yeah,
wasn't the same.
it was
So we
really
need the real
cute.
deal. Right. All
No,
right.
we can do a real one. Cheddar
Goddamn
cheese
right
wheel.
we
What's a
will.
good? What a 5-pound cheddar cheese wheel is about $44, but we can go a little bit nicer, like because this is from. Oh,
I mean, if it's not the size of a car wheel, what are we doing?
this is from the Wisconsin Cheese Mart.
Okay. I'm listening.
That was the first response. I can't. Google's listening to me. Okay, moving on.
Oh no.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Cheese is on the horizon. We'll put a queue for it.
All right. Next person. How do I exit this?
You can't. You're stuck here now.
Yeah, you're
Hello.
stuck here now. All right. Up next, we have a question from Andrew who asks, do you think that lefty streamers and content creators with relatively big platforms have an obligation to try and get their audiences to engage in activism?
This is obligation. So when you use terms like obligations, it sounds great when we're talking like internet philosophy. When it comes to actually motivating people and organizing them, terrible idea. People aren't like people's obligations. Like an obligation is a weighty thing. A responsibility is a weighty thing. And they're set not by some abstract calculation of what a person owes or is due, but rather by real moving forces in their life, emotional and material ones. So when you try to invoke that, maybe in some people you successfully instill in them a real, yes, I have an obligation to do this thing, to sacrifice my time for this cause. But for many other people, you alienate them. Many other people. And this is why volunteer orgs around the world instead rely on positive language. You can benefit from volunteering. Talk to people, meet new people, social opportunities, make a difference. You sell them on the positives. It's always a honey and vinegar situation when it comes to stuff like this. Because the God's honest truth is, you're not going to be able to find an obligation threshold. As utilitarianism doesn't really have a strong line between what is obligatory and what is supererogatory. That is to say, what is good to do but not necessary. I don't think it even has an answer. I mean, I'm sure some people say it does, but from what I've read, I have never been convinced. What could you say an obligation is, right? Like, certainly everyone could choose to donate all their money and then go and live like a monk and, be as optimally good as possible. But would you then denounce people for not doing that because they're not meeting an obligation? These questions are unanswerable, I think, and I think they're fully unproductive when trying to get people to do good things. You want to appeal to values they already have, to sell it to them, to make it their interest as well as yours, and if you run forward with that, I think you can do a lot of good. And I think overwhelmingly that is that is the effective strategy. Not to mention, then you get people arguing over whether or not somebody's doing enough. Like, I don't know if Sam Cedar's ever done any canvassing, but like if I went on the show and I was like, you've been doing political commentary for decades, I haven't seen you it's like, well, what are we accomplishing? Nothing, except I get to feel like I'm doing something. I'm not, but I get to feel like it.
All right, fair. Yeah. Next up, we have Aaron. Hit us with it, Aaron.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Vaush. I've been watching you since like January or February of 2020, so I'm really excited to be on here. I'm kind of nervous. Hi, chat. I go by any old pronouns. Anyway, so Vaush, two things that you talk about a lot are fascism and anime. So I've got to know, is Kill la Kill a meaningful rhetorical takedown of fascism, or are the fascist elements of Kill la Kill totally vapid?
I think they're completely vapid. Okay,
fair enough.
I think that Kill la Kill is an excellent anime, and in terms of like animation talent, basically one of the hallmarks of the genre. But I feel like it gets a lot out of running some themes very superficially. Like, I feel like in the boardroom when they were planning all this, they were like, okay, how many tenuous thematic connections can we make to like every element of the story in ways that are never really developed upon but feel kind of meaningful if you're watching a YouTube breakdown of them. And I think they did that like in a ton of ways. There were a couple of themes they really nailed, but as for the fascism stuff, Kiryu Unesatsuki isn't a fascist. Nothing that goes on in the academy is fascist. It's just authoritarian. The messaging reads like fasci at times, but only in the sense that like fascism is an authoritarian ideology. It doesn't really grapple with the with any meaningful way. It's still a great anime, but yeah.
Thank you. All right, I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for talking with me.
Well, have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Up
How
next,
do
we
I
have.
leave?
It's gonna be recurring. The moment I say bye, you
Okay.
just slam the eject
make you
button.
leave. Yeah, we'll make you leave.
Okay.
We will put you against the wall.
We will pull you on the stage. We will throw you off the stage. We will walk you through it. Don't worry.
All right. Up next, we have Aiden.
What's up?
All right, is everybody able to hear me okay? Hello?
Oh yeah.
We can hear you great.
All right. Hi, chat. Hi, Vaush. So I have been challenged to not say that I am nervous, so I have no more comments on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, man.
So, for a bit of context, Vaush, I saw about 8 months ago that you were working on People's Nuggy Quest.
Mhm.
Now, I was going to ask a question about an update on that, but then I saw immediately after I drafted the question that you posted a Unity update with an isometric game that you're working on. It looks really cool.
Thank you.
So I'm going to kind of have a two-parter question here. So first off, what are your thoughts on Unity? How's it going so far? And what are your future plans with Unity and your game development career?
I like Unity because anything that I do would only ever be a solo project, and it's understandable to me. I'm not like a code head. I don't know much about coding, but I can figure out the logic well enough that it makes sense to me. So C# seems like it's decent for that process. The problem that I've had is that I have a really bad tendency to like jump around with ideas in a very ADHD fashion, and I don't get anything done. A lot of the early ideas that I had were like way too big in scope, right? Like a detective game, isn't sort of systems based, which means that everything has to be kind of like hard coded in. You can't like make an asset and then make it work over and over. Like, you go through it as you do. And then a big 3D world you walk around in, like in the Mesoamerican thing. God, but I feel like I've finally settled on a scale where I am both capable of doing work and satisfied with the potential like upper bound of the results that I'd get. So as long as I'm in that space, I can get a lot of work done, I think.
All right, thank you. Also, I'm Coolest Blue in chat. Hello, everyone. And also, I'd like to thank you for using your platform to promote PV22. That's how you found out about it, and I think that's a really smart way to have progressive activism actually going on in the States. So yeah, thank you.
Of course. They're paying me a lot of money.
All the cheese.
Yes, true. And just a quick update, cool, fun announcement. We are no longer PV22. We have actually we're going minimalist. We're dropping the year altogether. We're just progressive victory. So cool, fun brand update. But our next question comes to us from Amy. Amy says, any advice on how to avoid burnout from the political turmoil we're currently going through in this nation?
Yeah, you have to recognize when you're experiencing burnout or getting like early signs of it, and then you have to respect it and just disengage. Obviously, if you have projects you're working on or like you're doing something right then, maybe you have to tough it through. But at the very least, like understanding your limits as a human is very, very important. We're not machines. We are subject to massive variance in our performance based on a number of emotional factors. There are no humans who can operate without these without these limitations. The closest thing that we really have are like very heavy amphetamines or adrenaline, but those are not, for different reasons, those aren't really sustainable long term and maybe not even advisable at all as solutions to burnout. In reality, like doing anything meaningful, even if it's something that brings you a lot of joy, requires a lot of work. And that work sometimes puts you up in contact with stuff that makes you unhappy. And you will be better off in the long run if you learn when that abrasion is worsening your mental health, taking a break, and then returning to it when you feel better than you will if you try to power through it. Like the average gain in the long run will be better. We see this right now with the experiments with 4-day work weeks, where firms that have done 4-day work weeks are actually getting higher levels of productivity because people aren't like miserable to be there, which means they're getting a lot more done during the 4 days they are there than they were previously during the 5. So be respectful of your feelings. Don't feel bad for taking a break because everyone needs to. And never be cowed by the image of people in positions of superiority over you who seem as though they never need to take a break, because they do too. They just hide them from you. All of the hardworking contemporaries you've ever had have taken their breaks. And those who never have, who truly, genuinely never did, are probably not doing that well. We need our rest.
Absolutely. And here we have with us James.
What's up?
Hi, Vaush.
Uh-oh.
It's to finally talk to you. My name is Jim. Oh, is
Hey.
my audio not good?
Oh, I don't know how well you can hear me. You do sound like you're coming in from the ISS. Actually, no, I think they would sound better. Yeah, you sound several degrees of not good. Do you know if there's anything you can do about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Sure. How y'all doing?
So amazing.
I'm happy to
So
hear
great.
that.
We are getting W after W.
Does this sound any better?
I can hear
Somehow,
you.
no.
I can understand you though.
You're intelligible now.
Maybe
Yes.
maybe be
That's the important part.
maybe be a bit concise with the question.
It's a pretty short
And
one.
we got you. Oh.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Okay, so I am the organizing lead for Massachusetts, and I had a quick question regarding a recent thing that's kind of been scary in the online left, and that is the recent influx of Tankies being very outspoken and prominent. How do you think is the best way to combat that?
I don't think it's necessarily been recent. I think a lot of them have gotten more vocal because of the Ukraine war, but they were pretty vocal back before with the Bernie or Bust stuff, and they've always had a pretty disproportionate influence on a lot of online discussion. All the Reddit mods are Tankies. It's really weird. So you have to understand that there's like an ideological overlap here. A lot of these people who seem to be Tankies really are just anti-American, and there's like an ideological synchronicity there where they can go like, well, the real reason I dislike America is because of hegemon, geopolitic, proletariat, but in reality, like, they don't care about those things. They just like countries that aren't America. A lot of this is also like young people, especially young political radicals, of which there are more every year, are innately contrarian, and they have little experience with the real world, which means that they're desperate to not be like their parents. They are very quick to fall for like appeals or calls to action that would make them a dissonant or a rebel or like a provocateur. And that's why so much of say like lefty TikTok is Tanky oriented. I wouldn't feel despair over it. It does suck. I'm not going to deny that. It does suck that like that's such an easy pit to fall into. The thing that I would focus most on is a rigorous adherence to principles which are unmistakably leftist, unmistakably progressive. And when they don't appear to support those principles, you just callously sort of disregard their revisionism, right? So if you're pro-worker control, if you're pro-proletariat, you're pro this, you're progressive, da-da-da-da, you stand by that. And don't bother, like, directly engaging with them or challenging them, because they're what? They're reactionaries, they're liberals, they're fascists, they're outside of your space. Allow them to justify to you the legitimacy of their positions, because as long as they're the one trying to convince you, they're at a massive disadvantage, because it means they have to make appeals that don't rely entirely on their like insane in-group dogma, like they have to reach out to you, which is why you see all this incredibly confident, like, yes, Russia is trying to liberate the Russian ethnic people from the Donbass or blah blah. But then, like, if you actually talk to a pro-Russian Ukraine war type person directly, they scale that way back. They're like, well, don't you think like what happened with Yanukovych in 2014 was like a little bit weird? Because they know, like, once they're no longer in their own echo chamber, they can no longer rely on these just taken for dogma. So just don't worry too much about it. Be confident in your positions and defend them if challenged. You'll make the space around you better.
Thank you so much. Could you give a quick shout out to my friend PJ? He's a huge fan. By huge fan, I mean he's a tanky and he hates you, but I think it'd be really funny if you shouted him out.
What's up, PJ? My main man, PJ. My ideological protege, PJ. Named after my favorite food, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Hope you're doing well.
Hell yeah. All right, I'm not going to keep you for any longer, but thank you so much, Vaush. This was really a privilege to speak with you.
Oh, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, James.
Awesome. Up next, we have Dylan.
Yeah, hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Howdy.
Yeah.
All right. You're a little quiet on my end, but we'll fix that real quick. I guess I was wondering, because first time saying hello to chat, long time chatter, hello chat. We're all here in Progressive Victory, and a big mission that we've talked about is moving officials to the left, even if they're not ones that we directly elected. So we didn't have a hand in it, but we're trying to lobby them, we're trying to move them on stuff. I guess I wanted to ask from a left-wing point of view, because liberals and conservatives have models and more money than we could dream of to do this already. What does that look like for us? And a perfect example right now might be, for example, in Nebraska, there's a senator named Megan Hunt who's been on the warpath recently, standing up for transgender people, basically stopping everything going on in the Nebraska Senate until they drop a piece of anti-trans legislation. And so for people that already agree with us, if we want to move them, or for like nominal liberals that we want to move to be more left-wing, what does it look like for someone on the progressive left, someone in Progressive Victory, or any similar organization to sort of play that game and move people without just kicking them out of office?
So I'm speculating here because, I haven't done this work myself. I've talked to people who have, so I'm kind of interpolating their results. But it really depends on how sincere the politician is, I think. Some politicians are, maybe not many at the federal level especially, but some politicians are motivated sincerely by values that they hold. They will take unpopular positions if they think they're morally right. They will try to get what they think is right done. Sometimes they'll make sacrifices, but for the most part, they care about what they believe in. And some people are purely like, just get me reelected. Party hacks, partisan hacks. And I can't make a guess as to how much of either or one specific person is. But I think when you're talking to them, you're not going to move the latter group, the hack, with anything other than like polling data and a structured argument on the popularity of some subjects. And that's, that's math to them, right? When it comes to the values stuff, though, I think the main thing that Democrats especially need to get on board with is the fact that when it comes to politics, you only get a tiny fraction of what you want to do done, especially at the state level. And as long as that's the case, you need to direct your energy and attention towards the subjects of greatest import, the subjects of greatest focus. And the Republicans, as unethical and maybe ill-advised as their hyperfixation on trans people is, it is a fixation. It is a national strategy, isn't it? It represents coordination across all levels of the Republican constituency, from the federal level all the way down to the voters, and alignment on a subject. And I think selling Democrat politicians on that would be a good idea, not on the Republican side of the issue, but on the idea of directing their attention towards the front of the issue. You can't just ignore this trans stuff, because this trans stuff isn't just an esoteric, sidelined, minor social issue. It might have been 20 years ago, I'll admit. The subject at that time might have been like a kind of, like niche, marginal one, but right now it's the forefront of a massive political push. And if you want to be relevant and if you want to get stuff done, you have to focus on those axes where you can get people's attention. And I think a lot of people, especially the Democrats, they're not malicious. They're just kind of out of touch. A lot of them are just sort of old, and they remember Bill Clinton, and they remember, they've been in power for a while, many of them, and they hear about all this trans stuff, and to them it just comes across as a hysterical fad Republicans are pushing. But it's not. It's meaningful, and it needs to be responded to in kind.
All right, much appreciated. Thanks so much for your time. Hope you are doing well.
Oh, well, likewise. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Okay, so on that note, actually, we have a question from Jacob, who asks, how do I advocate for radical progressive action in my family/community of liberals? How can we most effectively convince liberals to take the fascist threat seriously?
Well, I would say we have to look to historical parallels, but like Ron DeSantis right now is threatening to arrest teachers for not adhering to a whitelist of accepted content in schools, which cannot include any mention of queer people. So I feel like it's not even a matter of looking at history. You can just point at that, but it's about how you sell it too. There are so many signs that what is going on is distinct, is special. It's not the way things used to be. I think drawing a historical parallel can still be valuable if you can try to build a case that there is this long-standing resentment on the part of the Republicans about the social battles they lost like 60, 70 years ago. The Civil Rights Act, like all those conservatives back then, like MLK died an unpopular man. All those conservatives back then, all those Southerners, they voted in Democrats at the time, many of them. But if you take a look at these constituencies, where they are, what they supported, how did the individual politicians move? Man, that didn't go away overnight. And there's been this building resentment, I think, that's been coded and underlaid. You can talk about the Southern strategy with Nixon, but it has remained. And right now, we're seeing all of this rise to the top. Go to Twitter right now. Just browse the For You page, which has been trashed by Elon's algorithm. What are you going to see? Well, leaving aside all the attacks on trans people, there are a lot of white nationalists on there. And they're not getting small numbers in their retweets and likes either. There are a lot of people just flat out, just posting videos of black people getting into fights, as though I didn't grow up seeing a million videos of white Southerners getting into fights, Hicks or hillbillies or whatever. But no, it's always black people. And they're saying, these people are animals. We need to build a nation without them, da-da-da-da-da. But that ain't nothing. There are Republicans in the Senate and the House right now who have expressed pretty overtly white nationalist sentiments. If you get them on this narrative, I think they can understand Republicans, not after January 6th, man. Republicans aren't vying for an argument over which direction to take the country in. They don't want an argument. They just want to take the country in a direction. They'll do it by force if they need to, and the direction they want to take it is pretty as much of an objectively bad direction as you can get from a moral anti-realist. We're talking bad stuff. But you don't want to come across hysterical. Be matter of fact about it. Be conscious of what they consider to be a big problem, even if you think their priorities are out of order. And over time, I think you can make this case fairly to a lot of liberals.
I'd agree. Project confidence.
Awesome. Up next is Zen.
Yeah. So, actually, I think I got the answer in my question. I had this whole planned out, but like an hour and a half ago, maybe 2 hours ago, like one of my volunteers for my CalCare canvas, posted a picture of what we were doing. He was like, "Oh, look, Vaush already replied." I was like, "What? That was fast." But yeah, my question was, what do you know about CalCare? Or do you know that it came back? And the second one is, do you know about the one in Washington too, Washington?
Yeah, we're talking about the attempts to establish a statewide Medicare for all system, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
The same union is making, the same union that does the Medicare for all is doing CalCare, but I think the whole Washington one is by a different group. But yeah, we're working on both of them in Progressive Victory, and I was hoping we could talk about it because a lot of the news about it is only by the right wing, and progressives are missing for some reason. We're too busy doomering,
Yeah, I haven't talked about it that much on my stream, to be honest with you, because I haven't had the greatest amount of faith in it passing. I really wanted to, One of the greatest advantages of America as a platform for progressive political engagement is the fact that we have such a federalized system. You can have a state just flat out have its own laws if you want, and we do. That's happening right now. It's the GOP taking advantage of it. DeSantis turning Florida into a hellhole. But we could do better. And having a positive example to point to there, especially in a state like California, it really needs it. I mean, really,
yeah,
really.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just want to point out though, even let's say the worst happens and the bill doesn't go all the way through, just pushing it really helps to get progressives elected over center Dems, and it does help you get some better expansions of the stuff we have now. Was it Newsom announced expansion for mental health in California just a couple days ago, things like that. So
no, I
still
fully agree.
Do it, yeah. Cool.
It's important to understand that the range of political expression in this country, what you can say and what you can get done too, has trended very far to the right and not at all to the left. We know for a fact, well,
Yeah.
what can Republican legislators do? Anything they want. What can Democrats do? Well, they can, they can pass a bill for Pell Grant recipient for people of color living in we get milquetoast bullshit, but a better world is possible.
Yeah, the California Democrats have like 80% of the legislature, so I mean they could do a lot, and you could even afford to kind of split more because of they have like super majority. So we've got to push the Democrats in like blue states now.
No, I fully agree. Yeah, I'm actually
Awesome.
very unaware of what's going on in Washington. I haven't read up at all on their proposal.
Oh, there's another PV volunteer I think in like the lineup who's going to talk to you about whole Washington, but I'll wait for them to do it.
Oh shit! I live there.
Oh, awesome.
Two of the directors live there.
They have a whole plan to go from Pride Week. They're gonna like try to canvass for like ballots, like signatures to like make it go on the ballot. So like they have this whole plan. They'll tell you about it though. Like thank you, Vaush.
Yeah, way to spoil.
I just want to take a moment to sort of mention here, you probably hear most about, if you're a Vaush viewer, our national efforts like the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, but we have a lot of local actions going on. If you're interested in getting involved in your state, if there's something that, in your state you think needs more attention, isn't getting eyes on it, and needs to be organized around, join the server. We have state channels for every state where you can meet progressives in your area and organize and get cool stuff done. So if you want to join, it's progress.win to join.
Guess I'll say that I was the California state lead.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Name's Zen. Thank you.
I get a lot of emails, folks, and I still ain't gotten a single negative one from somebody who phone banked, text banked, or canvassed. Hundreds of positives, 0 negatives. That's a pretty damn good ratio. That's a lower regret rate even than transgender surgery.
Yeah, they're all really good people. I've had a great experience with the people who volunteer and participate in this server because participating actively in politics kind of filters out the people who typically aren't socially fit to interact with others and touch grass. So if you want to engage.
It's a great way to get over some of those barriers. I am someone who was very uncomfortable talking on the phone, very uncomfortable even calling to order a pizza, and through phone banking and just all the work that I've done with Progressive Victory. Now, hey, I'm on stream and can phone bank like it's nobody's business. And so if you are struggling with the typical Zoomer phone nerves, we are all there with you. We will walk you through it, and it's a great way to have some exposure therapy.
I fully agree. Again, lots of positive feedback, even from people with social anxiety, pretty bad social anxiety. I remember reading a story of somebody who was barely even ordered pizza over the phone, but went out and canvassed and had a great time.
Yeah, volunteering with us can definitely help with that. A lot of our directors and leadership are all, this is our first time, our first introduction into organizing and politics. And yeah, we're making it work. So next up, we have a question from Miguel, who I know is a combat engineer stationed in South Korea.
Oh.
And he wants to ask, do you encourage someone in the armed forces to do volunteer work like phone banking and canvassing, or should I remain nonpartisan?
Wow. I am of course speaking with all the confidence and knowledge of a civilian over here. But personally, I think that an active expression of left-wing politics in the military is vital at the moment. I don't want to get, fatalistic or anything. I hope the military doesn't get directly involved in U.S. politics in the future. But, I mean, even with, say, like General Milley, it's pretty clear that at the very least the political leanings of the Pentagon are under scrutiny by a lot of people. Maybe because the right is aware of the fact that they kind of need the Pentagon's support in order to get some potential plans in the future done. Hopefully not. I think it would be good. Obviously, if you feel it would compromise your safety in any way, I don't think you should. But hey, it'll keep you occupied when you're on base.
For sure. Something to do. Up next to ask a question, we have, you've just listed your name as Potato, So I'm gonna say we have potato.
Hello.
Howdy.
Wait, is my audio levels good, just to be safe?
Oh yeah, you sound good.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't really have much of a political question to ask. It's more of a nerdy one, but nonetheless, as a fellow Warhammer fan, I'm curious about what army do you like to collect for 40k when you have the opportunity to get some?
I like the Skitarii the most. I like them Mars
Skitarii?
boys. Yeah, that's what I've got behind me. I've actually collected bits from lots of armies over time. I just don't have all of them on display, and obviously painting takes a while too. So it's not all painted. But I think that I like those the most. I feel like there's a lot of room left over, like narratively, in terms of fun stuff to do with them as well. I think the fact that they were heavily featured with the Necrons at the beginning of Cadia Falling was one of the highlights of the story. So yeah, I like them a lot. And I think they're pretty.
Yeah. I usually for 40k I usually collect Death Guard. I found them pretty goofy in an audio book I listened to. So yeah.
They are pretty goofy, but I mean the whole setting is, so that's hardly a detraction from their quality.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, have fun, everyone.
Ye yourself. Have a wonderful day.
All right, next up we have Ethan.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, good. I'm working. Hello there. My name's Ethan, obviously. It's kind of my username. But I live in Pennsylvania, commonly known as the best state. But my question is, what about yourself do you think helps you deal with all the criticism and just like to talk about you in general, like any personality traits or like mental tricks, or like do you just kind of have a general positive attitude in general?
Well, I do have a positive attitude for the most part. I mean, everyone has bad moods, of course. And I'm assisted a lot by having a fairly positive community with me. You know, I mean, chat's infuriating often, but I still like them a lot, and I think they do me well. I think that it can be really beneficial to understand that you don't have to read everything negative about you. I know, this is kind of like the how is cyberbullying real, just get up and walk away thing. But obviously, like, the problem with cyberbullying, it's not, that it's online, it's that people feel that way about you. It's the idea of, like, that discourse taking place. The knowledge that people are being talked about behind their back is very uncomfortable for most people, and for good reason, like, right? Obviously, if you're an online figure, you're talked about behind your back more often than you're talked about to your face by a huge margin, by large numbers of people. And you don't have to tell yourself that their opinions don't matter. They do. They're real. But I think it's important to understand that to an extent, what you are is not what other people have constructed of you in their minds. And you should always work to better who you are. And you should understand that, there are many people who have done great things despite having a, publicly, despite having gotten a lot of negative flack. Think, for example, of being a black man in America. If you're a black man in America, there are literally tens of millions of people in this country who dislike you with no fault of your own, and there was nothing you could have done about it. Now, obviously, dealing with that sucks for black people, but it is something they deal with. And I mean, I imagine many women feel the same way. It's just, you have to understand that in spite of this, you persist, you maintain a conscious and consistent identity, and that identity is what you can work on. And at the end of the day, that's all you have power over. And as long as you focus on that, I think you can maintain a pretty positive attitude. I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a fantastic answer. I have to say, I asked this question because I've heard some allegations, some rumors that Vaush is actually bad. What do you have to say to this?
Damn.
So I said, of course, that people's opinions don't matter because they're real, but I was lying. Actually, those opinions don't matter. They are trash to me. That Vaush bad, inconceivable. I don't even perceive them. I just my eyes wash over as I browse Twitter.
Everyone who disagrees with me is morally wrong. So
True.
I agree with that.
Ontologically evil.
Yeah,
yes.
ontologically, yeah. Objectively, even.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Oh wow, we have our very own Jay up next.
Jay.
Looks like Jay would prefer that
Oh,
you
that's
read
right.
that
That's
question.
right.
Thanks.
He messaged me about that.
More like
All right.
gay. Fucking got him.
I think he's bi,
True.
so that's a compliment for him.
Ah,
What can orgs like PV do to encourage more people to help during election off seasons like the one we're in right now?
Yeah, so I imagine this is like a ubiquitous volunteering problem. Getting people to like consistently engage, even during the quote unquote off season, that's really tough. You can build social networks to keep people hooked, for a time, but I think that there is kind of a diminishing return there. I think what matters most actually is to keep a kind of an escalating threat level or degrees of urgency that you're consistent on. Or to put it another way, I think it's okay to admit that you're in an off season. There's always work to be done, sure. But I've noticed this when it comes to fundraising. Like if I wanted to do a fundraiser stream, people are most motivated when they have a clear understanding of the extent to which they feel they should really care about the thing that you're saying they should care about at that moment. And if you're saying 24/7, this is really important, this is really important, this is really important, this is really important. Are you lying? No, it's all really important. But there should be a reserve option, a little red button under the desk that you can hit when you're going, okay, okay, it's all important, but right now, we really need to get people out there. And because
the oh shit button.
Yeah, the oh shit button. Because I think that gives people an idea. Because there are a lot of people on the back ends who will only tune in for what they consider to be the most important stuff, the emergency moment, the national stuff. And if they hear emergency 24/7, they think like, okay, all right. And they kind of tune out because that's what humans do. We have to choose what we prioritize and we have to respond accordingly. But if there's that extra red button, the red alert, you give them the signal that it's their time to care again. And I think an appropriate proportioning of that's probably the best way to handle things. I've seen a lot of volunteer orgs burn out. PV's been going far longer than a lot of the orgs that I saw like live and die during my time doing incarceration and homeless advocacy in Humboldt, like the stuff that I saw there, because it's actually quite unintuitive and quite difficult to manage people's long-term volunteering work. So I think we're on a really good track, personally.
I would agree. All right. It looks like we have
Up
Jamanda
next,
Bob.
we have Josh.
Yeah.
Hello.
Howdy.
I'm nice to meet you. I am a Wisconsinite, so I've been doing a bit of volunteering and getting very nervous
Josh,
about
we
the.
can't hear you.
I can hear the person
Is
talking.
Joe here?
Now I can hear you. Sorry.
Oh, let me move in a bit.
I can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
Cool. So that was getting me thinking about gerrymandering, obviously, because that's probably the second biggest issue in this election. And I was wondering, in a broader sense, what are some of the electoral reforms to fix that kind of problem that you would like to see in an ideal world?
What specifically?
You mean to fix the problem of gerrymandering, or just in general?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I misheard you. I thought, okay, sorry. I so misheard you. Yes, gerrymandering. Really difficult. There's not actually a way to like neutrally do you can't not do gerrymandering. We call gerrymandering is like, oh, well, when they're really, really mean about being unfair with their districts. God's honest truth, there's always gerrymandering. There's no way to not have it. There's no way to do it evenly. In fact, an attempt to do things perfectly fairly in itself is a kind of brain dead centrist gerrymandering, because then you're like, oh, okay, well, we have to give Dems and Republicans an equal number of, counties. No, we don't. There's no standard people can apply that won't favor somebody. So I think the best thing that you can do in these circumstances, honestly, it's a vibes game. I think you have to play about as good faith as the opposition does. Right now, the GOP is playing about as bad faith as you can imagine. And to that extent, I think we should gerrymander the shit out of every state we get the chance to. I think we should. I'm talking in the middle of blue cities. We have districts that expand outwards like 16 slices of a pie that all intersect on one particular avenue. I'm talking like not a single county. Every single county will look like a worm,
pizza maneuver,
wriggling around. They're everywhere. Unfortunately, that's because I don't actually know if there's a way to mandate neutrality. You can set a specific standard and try to like force that nationwide. But if you do that, I mean, that there's no guarantee that standard will be followed, that it won't be interpreted one way or the other, or that it's a neutral standard to begin with. So I think you have to maintain control, and you have to maintain a kind of grim willingness to respond in kind to bad treatment. If there is a procedural solution to these problems, I'm not aware of it.
I could suggest. Well, first of all, I do agree with your proposition that blue states should be gerrymandering because red states are, and we have to cancel that out. But are you familiar with some types of proportional representation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be better than just going at it willy-nilly. I mean, there's always going to be a degree of ambiguity, to be sure.
Yeah. And then there was one other thing. This just came up randomly when you were doing the talk about stuff that blue states should be doing. I thought of something that you might want to look into, which was that Colorado just introduced this really ambitious housing policy bill to do a bunch of deregulation and getting rid of single-family residential zoning. So I thought you might want to look into that in terms of blue state policy stuff.
Oh, I'd love to. I hate single-family residential zoning.
Yeah, this is probably the most ambitious YIMBY bill that I've ever seen.
What state did you say?
Colorado.
Colorado. I'll take a look. Colorado does lots of nice stuff. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you kindly.
Appreciate it.
Oh, hello. Am I here?
What's up?
Yes,
Alrighty, up next.
Sorry.
Hello?
We have Piper up next.
Sorry. Can you all hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Awesome. It's really cool to be here. Thanks for doing this, Vaush. I only recently joined Progressive Victory, so and I've just been like meeting people and starting to get involved. So this is just really cool to see happen.
Of course. I believe on the 29th I'll be popping into something that Riverboat Jack is doing as well. I don't know if I'll be able to do one on the 1st of April, though, because I believe I'll be recovering from surgery.
Gotcha. What if you don't mind talking about it, and you don't have to answer what kind of surgery is going on?
They be yoinking my other keloid.
Gotcha.
Ooh, man, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Jeez. So my question is basically just, I recently came over to a more progressive, a more liberal state for university. I plan to move here permanently. I'm from Georgia originally. And my question is just, do you think in the event of a Trump or DeSantis victory in 24 or a Republican majority in the House and Senate in 24, are you confident in a blue state's ability to protect trans people from any sort of legislative onslaught they might levy?
Good question.
Confidence is a strong word. I don't think that the Republicans have the ability or the support necessary to do any kind of like military crackdown on blue states if they win and the blue states pass laws they don't like. I think that what might happen if they get total control of the federal government is they might try to sort of legislate their way through this. Like they might try to defederalize to the extent that they deny blue states the ability to pass their own laws in this sense. But I think that's a very time-consuming process. And what's more, the judges that would run through would not all be red. I mean, even if the Supreme Court is still red at that point, which it probably will be, that doesn't mean that every circuit court judge or every like state or like state supreme courts or anything like that. Like we're talking long stretches of time with no guarantee for results. Now, if there is some kind of military crackdown, obviously we're fucked. But I don't think that's the most likely outcome. What I think is going to happen if they get a victory is that they are going to very performatively do a burst of bad things, and then it will slow down tremendously because their primary focus in office will be the same that all politicians have, which is to appease their corporate benefactors. Going after trans people doesn't actually do that, and I think that they might be slowed down a little bit because it's a matter of like cashing the checks you've written. They can talk up a big game being Hitler 2.0, but once they're actually in the big seat, they're responsible for maintaining the continuous GDP growth for the benefit of all them wealthy fucks who funded them on the way over. If they don't do that, then like that, there goes their support, the meaningful support. So will blue states offer protection? I think they offer time. And that's meaningful because I don't think the country will weigh continuously in favor of Republicans' behavior if they act that way after taking power.
Gotcha. Well, that honestly instills me with a lot more hopefulness. So I appreciate that.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I also just want to say I love your geckos, and I think you should show them off more.
Yeah.
Will do.
Thank you so much, Piper.
Thank you.
All right, we have a question from Sam who asks, how can we spark engagement from apolitical people?
Well, you have to reach people where they're motivated. You have to reach people where like what gets them out of bed, right? Apolitical people, kind of by definition, are fucking insane. I mean, have you seen like right off the bat? So with that in mind, I feel like it's a matter of understanding what their particular neurosis is, and in many cases, I think it's actually burnout. I think a lot of independent people are people who either used to care and now don't because no change came about, or they were taught not to care. I see this a lot, for example, a lot of conversations that I've had, for example, growing up in Los Angeles with apolitical black people. Being apolitical when you're black in America is, I'm just going to say it, a stupid fucking decision. But a lot of them weren't apolitical because they didn't care about racism. They cared a lot. They just didn't think that there was any chance of anything good happening for them. They thought it was a waste of time and effort. World's unfair, life's unfair, do your best while you can. You're going to die one day. Don't waste your time trying to change things in a system that isn't susceptible to change. Now, they were wrong. Their approach, their attitude there is empirically incorrect. It's provably wrong. But that's how they feel. So how do you knock people out of a state like that if that's how they feel? Well, unfortunately, I think a lot of it really is interpersonal, and a lot of it's also going to rely on emotional appeals. Logical appeals, if they were the name of the game here, then they would already be political, I think, most of them. Stuff that matters to them, stuff that they care about. Parents tend to be really sensitive about their children for good reason. This is why the GOP is fixating so much about child gender ideology, CRT, blah, blah. Because, arguing that a parent's child is under threat from something dangerous is kind of like an emotional shortcut to their support. And you can do that. I mean, we can go that route too. We wouldn't be wrong to at all, not even remotely. I think it's a reasonable thing to consider at the very least. You just have to work to understand what it is that would get them to care about something. There's no broad answer for that.
Let's say hi to Jay.
Howdy.
Hello, Mr. Vaush.
Hey.
Hello.
So, trying to pull up my question because I could not remember it otherwise. What do you recommend with regards to staying informed, taking action with local, national politics, like regularly, while still also keeping up with your life responsibilities? I don't know if you have any tips for balancing things like retail work, if interpersonal relationships with friends and family, hobbies, and the like, as well as take the action to discuss them with people in your life who oftentimes don't agree with your perspective. I've had to, I feel a little two-faced oftentimes because I have to, in different settings with different people, it feels like I'm, interacting with people who I might have close family who might be very reactionary, and I have to, keep in mind all of those, that rabbit hole of things, as well as people who might be more willing to believe what we do, but might also lack the the drive or the interpersonal relations that we're fond of seeing in communities like this. I don't know if that's too broad a question for you.
It ain't too broad at all, actually. No, look, the Black Panther Party discouraged marriage between its members. The reason for that was they found that when people marry and pair off, they care less about politics. Being a political firebrand is a lot easier when you're, 20 years old and you've got a gun and no one in the world, cares about you, and you're just out there doing your best. Once you marry someone, you really want them to live, and you really want to live for them, and it makes you a much worse revolutionary. And do you know what happened to the Black Panther Party? You're right, it was rhetorical, but I waited an uncomfortably long time. They broke apart.
I was also muted, so I didn't want to just...
yes, that's a no.
They broke apart. They got, well, I'll admit, the FBI fucked them up, sure. But the Black Panther Party failed to produce anywhere near as long-standing or as effective or as community-oriented of a movement as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s did. And that wasn't just because they were radical. And of course, the Black Panther Party did a lot of incredible stuff, but it faded away. And that's because I think there are political consequences to essentially encouraging life devotion from your members. That degree of, constant committal, this is your life. You show up here after you're done with work. This is what you do. We dictate your standards. This is what you are. I think that in the long run, that's actually quite detrimental. First of all, most people can't commit that amount. And second of all, if you try to run that way long term, you will eventually try to find something in life that will give you more satisfaction than just being a pawn of a broader political game. So to that I say, how do you manage your life-work balance? I say you put the emphasis on life, because the healthier you are mentally, and the more you develop your skills outside of volunteers and activists, engagement, the more you do outside of that, not only do you make yourself a better and stronger person, you also put yourself in a better position to do good work in the future. Like, for example, just to throw one out there, and not to say that anyone's making bad life decisions if they don't run down this way, but an 18-year-old doing volunteering for a political org, that's a good thing, powerful, helpful. But a 25-year-old with a six-figure income doing volunteering for an org, that's even more powerful, significantly more so. The reputability, the professionalism, the life experience, the money, all of those things together mean they're capable of leveraging a lot more social power for the benefit of whatever org they do. That's why the GOP gets so far with so few on-the-ground supporters, because a lot of their supporters are ultra-wealthy people. And a lot of those suburban families who tune in, them Fox News families, are doing pretty well themselves. They're not all college students. So go for the long run. Don't burn yourself out on volunteering today and tomorrow. It's going to be a part of your life for a long time, I hope. So treat it like something that you would keep in your life for a long time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Been trying to work on that whole life thing, myself, obviously. Happy to see, and I think there are ways we can use what we see in getting healthier ourselves in order to, make known and be like, hey, that's actually a useful thing we should push more of. Like, I've been on a bit of a, binge of city planning type material, not just bikes, the like of that. And I was very happy to see there's been a lot of construction going on in my area for a long time. And it feels like felt pretty indicative of my mental state lately. Mm-hmm. But they just added a bike lane that leads to my place of work. and I think that's phenomenal. And even better, like it's a bunch of just strip malls around here. It's absolutely miserable looking. It's gray edifices and a bunch of in and out businesses, but obviously I'm happy to see anything that pretties it up. And just the other day, I noticed they started planting trees alongside the in the grass in between the all the lanes and stuff. So that's gonna, especially since we flood a lot down here, I'll have to keep in mind. Chat pointed out that gubernatorial elections are coming up in Louisiana, so that's where I have to be. But yeah, since trees help with flooding and they cool, improve the air quality. Like I think it's something to be able that it's important to note and bring up in conversation. Be like, yeah, it's really nice that so and so got that infrastructure bill passed, because this is going to be something that helps us for years to come.
No, I fully agree. Just remember, at the end of the day, it's like exercise. Everyone who runs to the gym for 3 hours a day for the first week after New Year's ends up quitting. But people who can, people who can go for 30 minutes a day for a year, are the ones who actually get in shape.
Totally. Building those atomic habits.
We appreciate you coming on, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before we bring Nicholas up, I wanted to ask, when is your heart out?
At the end of the hour.
End of the hour? All right, we think we have some more we can do here. So let's bring up Nicholas.
Hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Howdy.
Hi there, Vaush. I gotta say, massive fan. Thank you so much for doing this. First, I just want to thank you for all the support you've given to PV. It's amazing. I'm the Arizona State lead. My name is Nicholas. My pronouns he, him. And yeah, the stuff you've done for us has been fantastic. The people I've met here have been amazing, and the opportunities to organize that we've run into because of this is just... it's amazing. It's out of this world. Like everyone said at the beginning, this is my first time in kind of a leadership role here, and I'm wouldn't be able to do it without the stuff that you've been doing.
Not at
And my
all.
question
You're doing the real work.
Thank you. My question kind of leads in with that. So I think you have an amazing ability with political analysis. And I myself have used a lot of your content to try to get better at it. And I've noticed myself kind of like automatically kind of coming to positions that you are a lot more. But the problem I'm running into is able to explain and like walk your positions out incredibly accurately and fluently. And I can't quite explain how I come to my positions as much. I just kind of do. So how did you form your like form of political analysis, and how did you get so good at communicating that?
Well, I think the fact that I'm a debate guy helps me out in this respect, because I know that if I ever mention anything on stream, I'm kind of obligated to defend that position, potentially to people who are quite, quite aggressively opposed to it. I really think that a lot of it is just kind of working back from first principles. It's a matter of understanding what the basic things you're trying to maximize and improve are. And if you can run that through and kind of reconstruct why you arrived at your initial intuitive appreciation for something, I think it's a lot easier to do it more in the future. You work that through in cycles. It's like you ask yourself, well, why do I think this thing is bad? Or why do I think this thing is good? And it's always like, well, normative position, normative position, normative position. But eventually you get to something axiomatic. And once you have that, you realize that you can defend almost any argument. And past that point, being able to articulate why you feel the way you do is just a matter of charisma, and that's just a matter of practice. So I'd say really it does boil down to having done it a lot. But I think that what I do could be done perfectly well by a great many people if they got the chance to practice.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Fantastic. I thank you so much. I surprisingly, I think I've done that once before. It's how I came to my like axiomatic belief in democracy. But it's like the only time I've done that. So that's interesting. I didn't even think of that. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you very much for doing this and having me on.
It's good practice. Have a wonderful day.
All right. So Derek is dying to know
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
It's over.
It is over,
Course.
unfortunately.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm
Derek.
back.
Awesome. Derek asks, elves or dwarves?
Dwarves. Absolutely dwarves.
Yeah, unfortunately, Elon Musk got me there for a little bit. I'm on Starlink. All right, we should have 2D up next.
Howdy doody, everyone, and howdy doody there, Vaush. I am playing the worst level of Hollow 2, but we're not going to talk about that. Instead, I want to get right into my question I have right now. When it comes to looking at right-wing propaganda outlets and networks funded by millionaires such as Fox News, PragerU, Daily Wire, or I guess everything that Ben Shapiro does, is it valuable to spend time and resources debunking their absurd claims in order to bring over either centrists but right-leaning people or even people on the right themselves? What is your thought on that?
Yeah, I think I think that there's enormous value in debunking them as long as you understand why you're doing it and how you're doing it and to what end you're doing it. For example, I've noticed that as the Republican Party has gotten more dogmatic about the reactionary politics, there's less and less need to fixate on the like technicalities, the specifics, the data, because they don't care. I mean, like it's good to be right, and it's good to mention it, you know, like I don't think you should avoid mentioning if they're just flat wrong about something. But just saying that they're wrong and providing the correct info, that's not really going to change that many minds, you know? You have to fixate on what they care about, which is strong emotional narratives. And if you can't do that through like an empathetic perspective, I think that you can do that by denigrating the people they care about. So if you denigrate, for example, Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or whatever, I think that the vitriol that you bring to that, the negative energy, is actually valuable rhetorically, especially if you're making fun of them for being stupid, or if you want to be trite and, you know, trivial, ugly or creepy. And no, it sounds dumb, but keep in mind we're dealing with conservatives here. We're operating on their level, and on their level, you know, a lot of them are just making very base level um intuitive judgments about stuff that they hear from very obvious propagandists. Either they don't care or haven't noticed. You have to say something to shake them out of this perspective. And it's often the perceived strength and infallibility of their leaders that give them this confidence. You know, Ben Shapiro being able to effortlessly debunk every blue-haired college student who talked to him at on a campus. That perceived invulnerability gives Ben Shapiro fans a feeling of, oh yeah, well, we can trust this guy. But tearing into him, I think it can disrupt their feelings there, as long as it's done well. There's a lot of nuance to that, but at the end of the day, debunking is very important.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I will say the main thing that I want to do is bring over people who are centrist leaning, or no, centrist but right leaning, and kind of like pull them out of that before it's too late, or showing like people on the right, like, hey, no, that's not how things are. This is how reality is. I recently saw like a PragerU video about good little Chrissy Columbus, and everything in there was wrong, and just no, not factual at all. And with all these being funded by billionaire oil companies, is it the Koch's brother? Is that his last name?
Yeah, the Koch brothers. Yeah, well,
Yeah, the
brother
Koch
now, because
brother.
one of them is dead, right?
Brother.
Yeah, brother.
One's
right.
in hell.
Yes.
So yes, when it comes to debunking that, do you think that a group of people could necessarily stand up to all that money?
Oh, sure. Yeah, social media isn't perfectly proportional game when it comes to money invested. But you have to focus on it in the right ways. Keep in mind, the average person watching and agreeing with a PragerU video on Christopher Columbus isn't doing so because they know much about history, care much about history, or know much about Christopher Columbus. What they're doing is trying to assuage any feelings of aggrievement with accusations of systemic white supremacy in our country's history. Racists don't like to acknowledge history of racism because if you acknowledge the history of racism, you indicate A, that your glorious nation and people have done something wrong, and B, that there might be some kind of historical cause to modern day problems when it comes to disparities between different racial groups. So the real reason they're watching that video and agreeing with it is because they want to go like, like, yeah, they're see, America was already good. Them liberals always complaining. Da, 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 da. So the historical facts issue isn't actually how you get them. You don't go like, well, actually, did you know this historical text said this, that, the other? Because they don't know and they don't care and they don't know what's going on. You have to attack the core, the root of their position. You can ask leading questions. Why are you so obsessed with proving some guy who died 400 years ago did nothing wrong or whatever? Why, everyone knows Columbus was bad. Why are you so obsessed with defending him? Get them to explain themselves to you, I think you can get a lot done with that.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your voice. I can't wait to see much more of you. Hopefully we can do more Q&As. And thank you for having me.
Of course. Have a wonderful
Thank you,
day.
JD.
All right, adios.
A wild Shane appears.
Hi.
Hello.
Howdy.
Wait, I had the question written down. Okay, I can't find it. I basically, what's your opinion on using mockery or like just humor as like a political tactic? Just like you like go to a board meeting or something, and then you just like make fun of them in the speech, like.
Well, I mean, humor is just a universally valuable rhetorical tool under basically all circumstances. People make jokes at funerals, but I think that like what you're talking about, which is more like comedic mockery, like an attempt at satire, taking down someone or something. I think it's really, really important. It's kind of a weaponization of a tactic that the right has been very active in using since 2011, more or less, which is the idea of a joke being a kind of independent, non-communicative way of delivering a message. So, if somebody says something racist, okay, well, that's bad. But if somebody makes a racist joke, oh, well, it was a joke. And it's like, okay, sure. But that doesn't mean it's not racist. It could be not racist. It's possible that the racism was part of the joke, but oftentimes it's not. And the right has been, I think, unfortunately, very effective in producing this idea that like, okay, well, as long as you mask a political opinion as a joke, you can get away with a lot. This is why stand-up comedy is so right-leaning if you're only paying attention to politics and not stand-up comedy. Because in stand-up comedy, there's actually lots of really talented people. But if you take a look at politics and only fixate on that, the right is the one that has this legion of hacks who vomit out canned conservative talking points in the form of humor. The left doesn't really do that. So, yeah, make jokes. And if they get upset by them, ask them why they're so upset. Ask them why they're triggered. Say it was just a joke. You're acting in bad faith there to an extent. But these are questions they can't really answer without undermining their own ideology. So they probably won't. And you can just keep going on like that, I think, in many cases. And they get quite frustrated, which is good because the more frustrated they are, the more likely they are to make a mistake. And if they make a big mistake, that could be something to jump on in a debate or any social setting.
Okay.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah. I'm going to leave now.
Oh, well, have a wonderful day. Do that as well.
All right, Squishy is up next.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Can you hear you great?
Howdy.
Perfect. All right, I'm glad my setup's working. Hi, Vaush.
Hey.
I've been watching you for a while, and I joined PV because of you. So I'd like to thank you for all you've been doing for them. I had a question for you. I'm actually living in somewhat in the same area as you. I live in Kirkland right now. I've been there for about a year now. Don't know if you've been around that area, but you talk a lot about regional politics or national, international, global politics, but I don't really hear your opinions on a lot of local stuff. And because I'm incredibly biased, because I live in that area and interact with the same systems you do, I wanted to know your opinion on kind of local politics, whether that be the city of Seattle, King County, or anything you're keeping up with in Washington as a whole.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't follow it that much. I wish that I did. I think it's good to follow up and stuff like that. But the problem is like so much of my life is engaging with my audience and the stuff that's associated with the work that I do. And that means it's just a constant bevel of national politics. International sometimes, but the politics that I follow track directly onto the politics that I'm sort of exposed to and see people discussing, and that will always be stuff that already kind of fits the purview of what I already discuss, which is, of course, if you have an international audience, which I do, is going to lean larger. I keep telling myself, like, well, I should take a look at Seattle politics, and I always worry that if I do that, I'll start like autistically explaining what's going on to people in chat, to an audience that, let's be fair, largely doesn't care, because it feels very small and very specific compared to the kind of stuff I generally talk about. And still, it's something I should look into.
Yeah, I think it'd be, I mean, again, incredibly biased because I live here, but I think it'd be great if you gave some takes on occasion to, I don't know, it's something I care deeply about. And if you wanted to autistically ramble at someone for hours, you know, PV has social groups you're welcome to visit. We're always having people out there, so.
That's true. People, people do be available to be autistically rambled at over there.
Yes, especially if like going to Mox. We visit there every other week, so I will open an invitation to there if ever you would like to take that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you very much.
Of course.
Take care, Squishy. All right, Cam had to leave, but we have our founder and finance director, Sam. So
Sam,
he'll be saying a piece at the end here. But we have Triss, who wants to know, who is your favorite Transformer?
I don't engage at all with Transformers. I'm sorry. Let me just really quick. Okay. Transformers list. Can I get like a
Google Images?
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Or maybe ask ChatGPT.
Who here look okay, hold on. I found a tier list. Let me just see who here looks coolest. It's too low res. Oh god, it doesn't even give the names. Okay. I like it when they're red. I think red is a cool color.
It's a go fast color.
Yeah, it's a go fast color, exactly.
It's like the orcs.
Somebody in chat saying Starscream.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good one. Up next, we'll have our one of our other directors, Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Oh my god.
We're hyping you up. You're worth the hype.
What's up?
I have been tasked now by chat to inform you of all of our local politics for the rest of the Q&A.
All local politics from all localities?
Yeah.
This is a strawberry. Washington gang.
It's going to be really fast. I hope you can handle like 50 times speed.
All right, I'm ready.
All right.
Hit him.
Anyways, I have to. I am a little bit. Anyways, want to say I've been a longtime viewer. I'm super appreciative for you introducing me to Progressive Victory, and I love like all the amazing like the fact that you've like plugged us, push everyone towards this org. Super appreciative of it. And now like as one of your audience members, I'm here, and yeah, just really appreciate everything that you've done for us.
And I appreciate everything you've done for the fine people of America.
Thank you.
Inshallah.
I wanted to ask my question now, which is, now that I don't have time to watch your VODs anymore.
Same.
How has the rhetorical approach changed in the past year, and in particular around trans and LGBTQ issues?
Well, obviously, we've gone from me saying, like, this will lead to a genocide, to them saying this will lead to a genocide. So I feel like they're doing some of the analysis work for me, saving me some time and effort. I think that like rhetorically, it really sucks because these issues have a strong empirical basis, but the more time goes on, the less I think any of this can be resolved with a like matter-of-fact sit down on how they're empirically incorrect. I think that this gets, with time, more emotional. I think it gets more heated. I think that it gets more emphatic and more hyperbolic. And I think that's the game that we have to play because, like, man, history is littered with examples of liberals smugly quoting facts at fascists who are, like, pulling the gas chamber knobs to the right, you know?
Oh, God, you're right.
There's limits to the value of that. You can convince some people, but you need to respond in kind. And, like, right now, DeSantis is turning Florida into like a personal, like a totalitarian state. Trump is doing speeches on the elimination of transgender people. Michael Knowles is saying just the same. These aren't situations where you can go, well, did you know factually, it's actually helpful to people. I don't think that really resonates. What you need to do is you need to be mean, and you need to be aggressive, and you need to be active. And you need to be mean and aggressive and active at these figures and point at other people to them and go, hey, look at this. These you guys, these your leaders, this you. I think we need to be like very aggressive in pointing out the clown makeup that they're wearing to as many people as possible. It's not about debunking what they're saying so much as it is creating a compelling argument for mockery and ridicule and pointing at them. And you can include the facts and the statistics in there. You shouldn't remove those, but it's a different rhetorical emphasis, You're not debunking Ron DeSantis. You're tearing into him. You're making it bullying. You're making him out to be a mockery. It's critical, I think.
Thank you. And I was also tasked with we are currently planning on going to Pride and collecting signatures for universal healthcare. Plan on getting a whole lot of members out there, hopefully, at least within Seattle. So if you're interested, we'd love to see you.
That's for whole Washington, right?
Yeah, that's for the whole Washington Universal Healthcare Initiative.
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry. I thought I heard a click that was your mic tapping off as you left, so I didn't say anything. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Maybe I'll even leave my house.
We'll get you out one day.
Maybe I'll leave my house too.
We'll have a litany of Pacific Northwest events that you can make a surprise appearance at.
Oh yeah.
You can stay. You can stay if you want, Cynthia. We're almost done here.
Okay.
One of our last people here is Alex, our resident cryptid. Hello, Alex.
Howdy.
Hey, Vaush, coming in hot with this one. How do I convince liberals that body armor and guns are good? I feel like, at least in my political organizing experience, the only way I've been able to do that is when there's a very obvious, clear threat in front of us, and the leftists are the ones on at least the side of the protest with guns and body armor. This happened in a personal protest that was on Vice. It was down by a specific theater. And a lot of libs became more comfortable with guns and body armor after that. Like, there was a lot of conversation in at least my local community about, like, oh yeah, well, this wasn't as scary. But I want to know if you have anything to say about that, getting people more comfortable with these type of things, especially people who aren't already, before that happens. Because I don't want people to become comfortable after they have an experience with a guy with a gun across the street,
Yeah, it's mostly about like trying to get them to understand that previous experiences expanded to larger future ones. Like I think a good example would be the I forget the name of the place, the queer club that got shot up at, where the 5 people was killed and the guy said no, it was the more recent one. The what was Club Q, right. For all the queer QAnon supporters. And after that happening, he killed some people, the shooter. The Republicans basically just laughed at it. Really, seriously, it was literally immediately they were like, haha, non-binary person did that. And they all knew he was lying when he said that. With the Paul Pelosi thing, getting attacked by the guy with the hammer, immediately, oh, gay lover. I think you can point to stuff like this and go, okay, listen up. This is not just there are some far-right militants. The entire GOP does not give a shit when people on their side hurt or kill you. Think back to Black Lives Matter, Portland and Seattle. You had Patriot Prayer people driving around. You have all these far-right militias that have been attacking power substations lately, which the only reason to do that is if you want to kill people. You take out the substations because it shuts down everyone's power, and then there are no cameras on you, and you just march through the city unopposed. You shut down the communications. That's the entire point. That's why you do that. It's not just for fun. They're not trolling. Recently, the leader of the Atomwaffen got caught doing that in Washington, in Oregon. You point to all this stuff and you go, okay, look, you can think things are going to get bad or not, but look at all this, all right? Things are getting worse. That's objective. and the GOP does not care. They actively encourage it. And if you combine those two, I think people will be like, okay, well, maybe I'm not a gun person, but if some kind of horrific far right attack on my city does happen, I don't want them to be the only one with guns. A lot of people just have a strong emotional opposition to guns and aren't going to be moved over on this, but I think that's the best shot.
Real Ahel, can I ask 2 more things really quickly before I leave?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, one is, can you say, Logan, you're a bitch and I hate you. My buddy's watching stream.
Oh yeah, well, obviously Logan's a huge bitch. I mean, you don't even need to tell me. I was going to finish up with that anyway.
All right, last thing is, what's your favorite type of weed strain? That's it.
Oh, I'm a high on life. I don't smoke.
Loser.
I and Logan are both bitches.
He's a character. We love him.
I drink.
All right. So, Adrian would like to know, do you think social democracy is at least a good transition stage in between capitalism in its current form and socialism?
Yeah.
Why or why not?
The original social democrats were socialists who understood that social democracy was just a way of using the state to prop up proletarian interests on the way to socialism. And then, because the state incorporates all which criticizes it, and so does capitalism, I guess, all those people ended up being modern-day social democrats. That is to say, revisionist traitors. So, it's a good stepping stone. Don't get me wrong. Probably a necessary one. But man, is that a sandpit that sucks
A
you
fall
in.
from grace?
Yeah. Like seriously, go back and look at like Labor Party shit back from like 120 years ago.
They were such giga-chads.
They
Oh my
were
God.
socialists, real socialists. Not, they weren't immediate revolutionaries, but they thought they could use the power of the state to make positive changes to the system. And they did, and then they forgot they were supposed to do anything more than that. And then a lot of them stopped making positive changes to the system. So,
Well, we can hope we can live up to their name.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Vin.
Howdy.
Hi, Vaush, and hi, everybody in chat and everything. My question is, I'm a politically active person at my university. I'm in a socialist club. I talk to a lot of people on campus. And it seems like there are a lot of people that are that keep up with politics, but they just don't vote because they're so alienated, Gen Zers and all, just not voting. So do you have any tips or tricks on how I could convince people who are even interested in voting and realize, or interested in politics and know about politics, but still refuse to vote? Any advice on that?
A lot of the technical arguments I'd have in that subject probably go back to the burn or bust era, like if we go back to 2000, early 2020. But in broad application, a lot of it is that young people just don't think voting is cool. And a lot of young people have fallen into that if voting could change anything, they'd make it illegal bullshit, which they are. They have been trying to do that. Hundreds of years of this country have been fought over the right to vote and enfranchisement, and there are billions of people around the world who don't get to vote because they have authoritarian leaders. So yes, actually, it does matter, clearly. And that's what's such a stupid fucking phrase. Fucking Banksy. Did Banksy say that? I don't know. I hate Banksy. Fucking pretentious. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, you basically just have to you have to make it clear to them that the power the GOP has to destroy your life is directly connected to their legislative success. It is a one-to-one thing. Without the mandate of state power, the GOP has very little in the way of tools that it can use against you. Obviously, it still has a lot of cultural influence, but day to day, man, this legislative stuff matters. You see what happens. Donald Trump lost the election federally, and what do we get? We get a conservative Supreme Court justice, or not justice, justices, 3 of them, and you get Roe v. Wade revoked, kablamo, voting. You see this stuff happening all over the country. Empirically, the evidence is there. Anyone who's not a fool can look and see what the answer is. So it's an emotional bias. They don't want to be uncool. They don't want to be, one of those institutionalist types. They don't want to be seen as doing something that they feel won't matter because that's not cool if you're a kid. And I say, I don't know, you slap them around a little bit. Maybe you can give them a little 1-2. It's a stupid mentality, and a lot of it is born out of just juvenility. I think you can make the right argument. The question is whether they'll listen.
All right. Thank you. And one more thing. I want to say I'm fighting for my life always in the YouTube stream comment thing, like spamming the exclamation mark because you get so many views on the stream and nobody likes the stream. So I feel like you need to every so often have like a 1984 segment where it's just close in on your face, repeatedly saying like the stream, like the stream, like the stream for like 30 seconds, and then back to whatever segment you're doing. Because Vaushites, no true Vaushites in YouTube chat. None of them be liking the stream.
That's true. I need to do that. I need to take the shill pill.
We are no longer asking like the stream chat. Come on,
like the stream,
do it right
like
now.
the stream,
Right
like
now.
the stream.
Let's go.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Vaush. Pleasure talking to you. Sorry for keeping you up later with my question.
Not at all.
Love talking to you.
All right, and finally, we have all the way in the snowy corners of Alaska, the Loose Juice, aka Alexander.
What's up?
Gumchis kat Yuhana. Yake Kwasatini, Yake Hana. Good to see you, Vaush. It's good to talk.
Well, howdy. Good to see you too. I understood every word you said.
Oh, of course. Anyway, I emailed you a while ago about like the Tlingit language and like broader language revitalization stuff. You had like a real quick answer to that, like a little one sentence answer. And I'm just very passionate about all this stuff, So I was wondering, like, what's your thoughts on like language revitalization as like a thing?
I mean, I think it's good to do as a kind of, preservation of culture. Though I think to an extent, it's kind of like a foregone conclusion. All languages change and die over time. Even English is like right now, it's nothing even remotely like Old English. So that, it's even if it keeps the same name. I guess what I would suggest is that language revitalization and such should be pursued with the understanding that it will maintain at most a niche cultural presence, and it's being done primarily for enrichment and for cultural study, for an engagement with that history, but not with an effort to like beat back any kind of change, so I guess like cultural revitalization, because it's valuable information, is good, but cultural revitalization as attempt to like stop the clock and keep the march of time from moving forward, I think that can lead to like some pretty negative attitudes, because then people start thinking of all cultural change as being the kind of like death of that which they're preserving, and that's I think that can be kind of like doomer.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I meet some people here who are like Tlingit speakers who are like, I don't want to translate iPhone. iPhone's not a Tlingit thing, etc. But and it is like a very hard thing to do. But I look to things like language revitalization in Hawaii. It used to be that like you could list like every person who spoke Hawaiian like by their name, but now there's over 300,000 speakers, and it's growing quickly.
Oh no, I think it's good. Yeah, it is possible. I think for revitalization to really take place. I just hope it's being done with the right mindset. Obviously, when we talk about language revitalization, we're not talking about like France trying to like set an objective standard for how French should be spoken. We're talking usually about indigenous cultures that are trying to preserve their heritage, and I think that's a lovely thing. Oftentimes we do not see a huge resurgence in people using the language, but it can happen sometimes. And when that does happen, I just hope it's being pursued in a mindful fashion. Obviously, like indigenous Hawaiian people are in a pretty weird spot right now because they're being mistreated, obviously, by the American government. Their land is being polluted. They are reduced to tourist profiteers in a gigantic vacation resort for white people. But on the other hand, they will never be free of the United States. There is 0% chance in the future of us having 49 states and it being given back to indigenous people. And even if we did, modern economies are complicated and it would not go well. So
you cut out there for a sec.
Oh, only like modern economies are complicated and it would not go well if there was like some divestment of indigenous Hawaiian people from America. So the real question is how do we move forward? And in a way, I think that a revitalization of the Hawaiian language might actually give them a better stepping stone for understanding their shared goals as Indigenous people and as victims of American colonialism. And to that extent, I support them.
Yeah, and in my experience with learning Tlingit here in Southeast Alaska, it's it's not really supported by like enough institutions, if you know what I mean, or if it is, it's like half-handedly. Like in my high school, they taught a French class and they taught a Tlingit class. The French class was taught upstairs in a windowed room with all sorts of materials, with a very good French teacher. The Tlingit class was taught in the 0 hour in a room without windows, and the teacher had 2 other jobs. You know, it's like, and they were very rarely given any supplies and stuff. But I don't know, you know. To me, it's partially because there's been like so much effort and stuff put into any language, you know. But to just see it like go away, not necessarily just transition to something else, but just like be stopped, you know, be made illegal, be put in boarding schools, et cetera, until it's, you know, dead, is it is much harsher than any kind of language change, you know.
Oh yeah, of course. Obviously, like the language shift over time is more of a symptom of a broader problem than it is anything itself. You know, like in and of itself, changing which language people grow up using is a minimal problem. But that's never just what's happening. It's always, well, why aren't we learning this language? Of course. Well, it's because all these schooling systems were erected by people, you know, with following standards that were set by a country whose capital is like 5,000 miles away. You know, like all that shit.
Goodness, sheesh, Vaush. It was good talking to you.
I hope
see
you have a
at
wonderful day.
17.
Yeah, we appreciate you sharing, Alexander.
I hope all white people burn. Be well.
All right, that is everything from our community. I want to thank them for submitting all their questions. It's been great, really hard-hitting questions and some fun ones in there. I want to give some space to either Sam or Cynthia if they want to say a little bit at the end here. But I'd just like to say, you know, thank you, Vaush and Stream Chat, for chilling with us. We really love having you here, and I encourage everyone to come hang out with our motley crew and get some more wins for progressives. All they have to do is go to progress.win, and they can volunteer with us. And if you want to help out with Wisconsin specifically, our mobilize is progress.win / get this, Vaush.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Heard stories about him. I don't know.
Fables.
I really appreciate you all hosting the Q&A.
Sam, Cynthia, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I appreciate that we were able to finally get this scheduled.
Oh yeah, 100%. I apologize for taking forever to respond to everything.
No, it's okay. We factor that in. Here's to many more.
Of course. Thank you very much. I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Cheers.
Take care. That was fun. I feel like we had some fun convos there. Good hustle, team. And please do join the Progressive Victory, people. I swear to God, this is not just some cynical effort on my part to leverage some kind of political power from all of you. I've gotten so many emails from people who said they had a wonderful time. I'm sure many of you would as well. Please give it a shot. Oh, and also here. Wait. Hold on. Baby video. Okay? You can only watch this baby video if you're going to sign up with PV. Okay? That's the only way. Okay, good.
Get him, Danielle. Get him. Oh. Get him. Get him. Ooh, he's doing the pose. Bring up body slam. Oh my god. Oh. Danielle's still going for it.
Ooh. The fluoride stare. Oh, they're so cute.